Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. In today's episode, we are going to be removing the RB26 from the R32 GTR. Now, we're not going to be working on the R32 GTR, we're just going to be removing the motor so that we can shoehorn it into our 240Z project. We're going to park the chassis again after. We're not going to work on the R32 just yet. Sometime later this year, when some of the parts arrive for this baby, we're going to proceed to work on this car. But for now, it's all about removing the motor, rebuilding it, and then shoehorning it into our other project. I haven't started this car or driven it since I bought it, so today is going to be one of those days. Hopefully it starts and we don't have to push it into the hoist. Cold start with the R32 GTR. Honestly, I've never driven this car. As soon as I bought it, I parked it because I knew it was a future classic and it's going to be an awesome project as part of the channel. These are our Loctite, gasket remover, lube, assembly lube, feeler gauge, rubber mallets, grease, butane torch, gapping gauge, gasket, bore meter, micrometer, another bore gauge, valve spring compressor, piston ring grinder. I need to get a piston ring compressor still. I have a clutch kit for the RB25 conversion, an oil pan for the RB25 conversion rear-wheel drive only, oil pump, Radium surge tank, AEM fuel pumps, cover for the front of the engine so that we can show off the timing gears, oil catch can breathers, injectors, valves, valve springs, retainer, thermostat, head bolt, and then the studs for the head bolts, AEM loom, air mounted fuel pressure regulator, oil filter relocation kit, Tomei cams, HKS 2.8 crank with the fixed collar, Tomei gasket, ATI damper, Tomei belt, the Tomei cam gears, water pumps, Supertech, I think valve guides. Cam followers, only one that arrived, but we need to order another one. We have the Grady single air intake, Radium fuel rail along with the Radium fuel filter and fuel sensor, HKS pistons. These are 86.5, which means we need to bore out the block by 0.5, stock gaskets, and then the HKS connecting rods also. So I'm going to do a quick inventory to make sure that we're not missing any parts. So this is the part of the video where we're going to get super technical and super geeky, because the video is intended for those who want to rebuild the RB26. Now, the whole teardown process and the removal of the engine from the chassis was just all mostly time-lapse. Obviously cleaning it and dismantling it also was time-lapse. This is something I wanted to learn all my life, and I've never been able to really get my hands dirty to rebuild an engine. We have Jed and Jed over here. Jed Jalandoni and Jed Ambas, they're going to help us today and teach us exactly what we need to learn when we're rebuilding the motor. We have a lot of tools on the ground, from a valve spring compressor to a micrometer to a bore gauge. So we're going to definitely use all the tools today and figure out what are the things that we still are missing to complete the RB26 build. Now the engine is going to have a updated 2.8 step 1 HKS crank along with the pistons and conrods, but for today it's just all about disassembly, taking some technical measurements because it's obviously our first time to do an RB26. Jed and Jed have their own experiences already in terms of rebuilding engines, and I'm going to be learning from them. Here we are with the front part of the motor. Timing belt has come off and now we're removing the tensioners. After that, we're going to proceed to remove the water pump, the oil pump, the timing gears, and the timing backplate. Right now we have the cam removal. On this side we have the intake cam, and then this side we have the exhaust cam. There's actually a mark on the cams which are over here. You can see the E on this side because it's the exhaust side, and you can see I here because it's the intake side. So for those of you who watch the JDM videos, this pointer is everything. We've removed already the water pump which sits over here, and then the oil pump now needs to come off. Just need to figure out how to remove the main pulley there. So stock cams are coming out now. Jed has decided to split the tables. This is our dirty table. These are the cams. And then over here is our cleaner table for the newer parts. Now we're going to remove the head bolts. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then another 7 on the outside galley. Okay, the head is finally coming off. The pistons look good.
Really good. Not a bad engine.
I feel bad for now destroying this perfectly beautiful engine.
It's a pretty good Japan original built engine.
Okay guys, the head has finally come off, and Jed was saying that this engine doesn't look like it's been altered at all. We're looking at the pistons, no dings on the top of the pistons, no scarring in the bore sleeve, so it looks pretty good.
The burn on the pistons, all very nice.
Yes, clean
All
burn.
the same. Your head
Even
gasket.
the gasket, there's no leakage. If you're looking at the rings here, there's no leakage from any compression leaks, so the gasket was pretty solid. And again, looks original.
Okay, your head. Aluminum looks okay. There's no corrosion so far. Obviously, we're gonna have to pass through that. We don't have pitting.
Yes.
And the rings again, same. Water passages, same. Bad engines that have a lot of corrosion, this will start to
chip out.
Even if it's aluminum, it will have corrosion, and the shape will be off already.
Jed's observing the head, and it seems like the engine was a very well taken care of example of a good RB26.
The Japanese sticker hasn't been repassed. The Japanese sticker is still there.
Half of me feels really bad for destroying a perfectly running, good condition RB26 engine. But the other half of me is like, you know what? We do need a fresh motor for the 240Z build. And this is a good base project because we know the motor is nice and fresh. From here, we're going to be proceeding to flip the engine over and removing the lower half of the crank bolts, and then working on removing the con rods and then the crank bolts also, so that we can remove the crankshaft and move everything down. The pistons are going to come off, and then we're going to inspect everything. We're going to bore gauge, dial gauge, everything just to make sure that the measurements are perfect. But seeing the condition of the engine, I'm actually not really in doubt that we're going to have a lot of issues with it. Seems like we're doing a lot of progress, but this is only the teardown phase. The building phase is always the harder phase. So over here we have the brace for the crankshaft. The brace for the crankshaft also holds the crankshaft bearings down, like my pointer. You were with me when I got this.
Yeah.
Where were we? Shinjuku? So Jed is now checking the sort of latch adjustment of the con rods to make sure that we are in the 0.4, is that millimeter?
0.4 millimeter maximum tolerance.
busy cleaning the surfaces, just making sure that everything is nice and neat. It's actually quite addicting to run the blade down the steel and just shave off all the bits. So Jed's now ready to pull the crank out. Does this come out together with the crank? So you pop it out and then the crank comes off.
But we'll find out if there's one anyway.
Right now Jed's gonna remove the oil squirters over here. The oil squirters are down there. And then after that we're going to put the crank brace back on so that we can do the bore gauge for all of them. Norman right now is doing a sideline job. We're changing Struan's Mustang seat into a race seat, so we're helping him out prep his car. Those are our oil squirters down there. Look how clean the block looks. Even the bearings have no scratches. Doing a bore meter, which is basically measuring if the cylinders are straight down. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And alright, so Jed is back on the job. We're removing the exhaust valves or intake valves. Jed's using the valve spring compressor to push down the spring, remove the retainer, which is that little thing over there. And then after that, he can just slide out the valves. The manual says that the sodium-filled valves are very dangerous and toxic, so you shouldn't break these valves when you're removing them. I'm back working on RWB Victoria, and I've got so many things that was working today. I finally got the car to start up and crank up. Starter button is now active. As you can see here, it's blinking blue. And I'm going to press it and the car will start. So I've gotten the CAN bus switch to work. I've managed to be able to program one switch to do multiple functions, which is awesome. And right now, if you press the headlight button for, I think, 3 seconds, you're gonna get low beam. I will program this to have park light first and then low beam. And then if I hold it again, I'm gonna get high beam, which is the HIDs. And then if I hold it again, it's gonna go back to low beam. And then if I just tap it once, it's going to turn off. Jed has been just meticulously measuring everything. We're listing down everything over here. I messaged Tito also for some advice on what he thinks we should do for certain items, but over here we have Jed measuring the shim buckets also to make sure that they're of equal length. Maybe we'll reuse them. Tomorrow I do have my conrod bearings coming, so we might test fit and do a bore gauge to see if this is pretty straight and even in all the clearances. Just did a premiere. Now we're gonna do some engine work again, or well, they're gonna do some engine work. They've been measuring and cleaning everything throughout the whole day. I've been working on Victoria. I'm so happy finally we're gonna be able to put the bumpers back on so I can finish laying out all the wiring and cleaning everything up. Now we're putting the lower block back with the
Old crank.
The old crank. Why the old crank?
Just to check the clearances if they're okay.
So we have this thing called plastic gauge, which is a squishy plastic thing. When you tighten the crankcase down or the cradle down, it squishes the gauges, and then you check it versus the little piece of paper over here, and then you check it versus the tolerance over here. So basically, if we're within the standard tolerance and beyond the limit, then we're all good. Another late night. So also when you're tightening the crank, it has to be from the center moving outward. And then also when you're torquing it, there's pre-torque settings. So it's like, let's say 30 pounds and then 70 pounds and then 120 pounds, something in that order, where you basically gradually brace the block down in an even formation before you go full send on the torque wrench. So having a digital torque wrench obviously gives you a more precise feel and a more precise reading, because not only can you see the reading, you have the audible beep and the actual torque wrench vibrates, right?
No, the best way is to use the plastic gauge and then use the micrometer and then cross-reference both results. So it's not that accurate because you can only go through 4 of the measurements. In between, you won't know. No, so I think you can even visually see. It's thicker, it's thinner. And this one again is 0.038. Pretty fast.
Exciting and scary part. Okay, good morning everyone. We are back to part 2 for the RB26 or now RB28 engine rebuild. So the engine just came back from the machine shop. They had to remachine the lower brace so that we can fit the platinum brace sump guard, and also fix the oil pan because the oil pan was actually misshaped. Because I am converting this into a 2-wheel drive kit, we had to use a different oil pan with a different pickup tube, which Norman might have to adjust later. The garage is super full today, so don't mind the extra mess. We are working on so many things, scanning the SLS, waiting for the gearbox for the R32. What do you call this lube? Assembly lube.
Assembly lube mixes with the oil to provide extra protection on first start.
So I wasn't filming it, but basically they took a 1000 grit sandpaper just to clean out any excess grime, brake cleanered everything, and then air gun, and then wipe. So the Jeds have made the special piston ring funnel. It's like, yes, satisfying. So we have the block brace now going on. The block brace has been machined to actually go on. We had to shave the cradle and then re-drill some of the holes because we are converting it also to a 2-wheel drive. So the block brace holds the cradle and holds the block together. We had a issue with the Nito oil pump. The Nito oil pump comes with a Cine drive, which is like a sine wave, and that's not going to fit, so we actually just put back the stock pump. But I will order the Nito pump with the flat drive, as they call it. We're just test fitting everything. The tensioners and water pump have been installed already. Jed said he's gonna slap the head on, so that means gasket first and then head down and then torque it down. So we're just gonna degrease just to be sure. Like, we've made an executive decision to stop the build and get some more parts, and the Jedis will be back. So we finally have the oil pump from the US, something that is correct to the crank, and that's what they're doing now. They're going to be building everything. asked him to do the timing. Might as well finish that. We've mocked up the turbo, the top mount manifold, and one of the wastegates just to see. We ended up bringing out the PRP RB crank trigger kit along with the cam trigger kit, and we're now installing the crank trigger, which is basically a magnetic hall sensor with a new crank gear so that it can detect that. And then we're also gonna install the cam timing trigger so that they can sync up, and it's just gonna send us more information to protect the engine from hopefully blowing up. It is 9:35 and the Jedis are going home finally. We're basically missing the valve covers, that's why this is plastic wrap. We're able to install the lower sump along with the brace. We've installed most of the front ancillaries already. I am converting this into an LS1 alternator to get more current. I'm gonna clean this all up tomorrow. I'm gonna basically walk the Jedis out, and hopefully the next time you see this video, this engine is running already. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this techie, geeky content. I learned a lot from this whole procedure, and I can't wait to actually see if this works. Anyway, hope you guys are enjoying your evening. Have a good night. I'll see you guys in the next video.